Good morning, and thank you for joining us today for an exciting webinar on alignments and all the stuff you never wanted to know about alignments in Civil 3D. And believe me, they keep getting more complicated, more in-depth, and more evolved is the best way to put it. And that keeps happening. And it's going to keep happening. Welcome to Civil 3D and Rapid Development. My name is Ted Tillman. I'm the president of More Competency. Most important thing, Instant On Basics simply makes Civil 3D run pretty much right out of the box. You have limited things you need to do to make it work. It's all NCS, National CAD Standard Compliance, got all the LDT stuff you ever had and ever wanted. Lots of support for utilities and things like that, all that kind of stuff that's really not in the NCS block libraries and those sorts of things, right? All the most used stuff is in IOB, and we know it works. Clients are happy. The jump kit allows you to do just about anything you can imagine with Civil 3D. We literally have four complete collections of styles in there, 5,000 styles. Oh my goodness, like 200 plus, almost 250 profile views, styles, for example, and the list goes on and on and on. Has a complete NCS symbol set, which, hey, even if you don't want the jump, you can get a copy of that symbol set, all the point styles, all that stuff, right, as a separate product called the symbol set for NCS 4.0, and it's the first of a number of symbol sets you'll see from us. If you don't even want that stuff and just want those blocks that are all cleaned up and all that stuff, we have blocks only, NCS 4.0, grossly inexpensive, works on a site license for ridiculous chump change, works in LT, releases from 10 to 12. You won't have any issues with it. You can even port it back to older releases, so you have clean block libraries that you can base Civil 3D map stuff, regular AutoCAD stuff on, and build your own tool palettes for that sort of stuff. Today, we're here to talk about alignments, offsets, and widenings. We're going to focus mostly on core alignment functionality and stuff that's happened with alignments. There's so much stuff that comes out each and every release of Civil 3D that it's really hard to kind of get a perspective on all that stuff and how it might help you. And we tend, because we know how to draw and we know how to do this stuff, we do stuff in old ways. And I want to point out, as football season finally got underway this weekend, and everybody was no doubt entrenched like I was in front of the TV for part of the weekend. Great game last night, by the way. You have this issue of, even if you're really skilled at what you do, you got to go back and re-examine those fundamentals and practice those fundamentals. And this is one of the things that we used to do in jump school. We tell people, hey, the way you did it for years and years worked fine, but it doesn't mean that that's going to work really well inside of Civil 3D anymore. So you need to re-examine how you do the littlest things you do, and that can be emotionally very frustrating. And one of the issues that everybody has going from LDT to Civil 3D is that just the draw interface, how I create stuff, is so radically different than it used to be. It's not raw AutoCAD anymore. And there are a lot of tools inside Civil 3D to make that easy, but they're kind of squirreled away and buried, and if you don't use them, hey, you have problems, and stuff is frustrating, and getting work done takes twice as long. So that's one of the things we'll focus on a little bit this morning. So, hey, I'm going to go through 3 quick slides here. 10, 11, and 12 really focused in terms of what happened in Civil 3D on alignment features and extending the idea of alignment profile pairs, working with intersections, being able to do a whole bunch more work extremely rapidly. And it happened in 3 consecutive waves. We got intersections, we got new improvements here in 11 to geometry points, super elevation wizard, super elevation views, curve widenings, corridors have got big changes going on in them. Intersections got more changes, and things that we're capable of doing. Pipes happen too, because all this stuff is related to horizontal control inside of Civil 3D. And in 12, I would literally have pages. Okay, some of this stuff looks picayune until you really got to work on stuff and got to get stuff actually done that works in the real world. So 12 is a big refinement on what's going on with the alignment feature in Civil 3D and its related profile features. Now we did some of this constraint editing and tangency checking and stuff for axis of rotation, super elevation, doing right-sided curve of median rotations and all that kind of cool stuff that the highway department's all needed, and actually work for us, when we have to work on nasty rural roads and ditches and all that kind of stuff. All right, they actually really help us out. Well, there's definitely in 12, the significant thing is that there is better, not perfect, better shared horizontal and vertical control, because now we can share offset alignments with their widenings, okay, and curb return alignments in there, and all those profiles we can now move around inside our project. Now, I would say that this is not totally user transparent. You do have to understand data shortcuts pretty well to make this stuff work. You have to understand corridors. You have to understand intersections well to make all that kind of stuff work well. But it definitely works a lot better than it did. What I mean here is that you can build options with different outlays of offset alignments, different types of intersections, and mix and match to deal with the problems that you have in lots of design solutions. Corridors are not just roads. They do parking lots, they do grading, they do ponds, they do lots of things. So anything that involves, offset horizontal control, right, alignments and offset alignments and intersections coupled with corridors do a ton of work. There are a couple of other nifty, cool things in addition to the basic sub-assemblies that are shipped with Civil 3D. And by the way, in each release, get a few little tweaks. So if you have older assemblies that you're employing, you might want to go back and re-look at those sub-assemblies that you have in those assemblies and do tweaks to them. All the super elevated lanes all changed in 12. There are tweaks to many of the other little bits and pieces, the Duplo blocks, if you will, for corridors. And in July, Autodesk released the Sub-Assembly Composer, which allows you to build your own complex sub-assemblies that can do just about anything you can name in the world. And there are a couple of people, including Chris over at Civil 3D Reminders, a good buddy, right, who is releasing some kits of sub-assemblies that he's composed to meet some state standards in some locations. So if you don't want to bite off that tool and all that nightmare, there are people who are actually doing that kind of work already, because it can save you so much time and energy in a project. Basically, hey, I'm going to beat this one to death. I'm going to hit you on the head with a football. Right? Full-blown blitz here. You got to beware of your old habits. Employing the Civil 3D draw interface tools is critical to you being able to get work done faster on a regular basis. Employing the layout toolbar and the idea of rule-based segments instead of just drawn in AutoCAD, create a much more editable thing. But 12 helps us significantly here because of that weird tangency constraint thing that was going on that we saw on a previous slide. And we'll show you what that means in the real world in just a second. Do want to point out that fundamentally understanding fixed, floating, and free objects for both alignment and profile segments, right, is critical information. You want to look at this, you want to understand it, you understand how they relate to one another and how those tools are expressed in both layout toolbars. Right, so understanding those three things is critical to being able to employ successfully the rule-based tools that are in Civil 3D and allow you a much more flexible and editable, changeable, malleable set of control, both horizontally and vertically. So paying attention to these things is critical stuff. I call these in alignments the three F's, the C's, and there's a little c like, as in MC squared, and the for alls. Okay, the three F's are the fixed, floating, and free. The C's are the types of curves. LDT only supported clothoid spirals, and Civil 3D has a whole list of other ones, most of which don't apply to us, right? But on occasion, they come in really handy. So it's one of the things you want to talk about with your principal. Hey, do we have a different way of approaching this problem? And there are a couple of those solutions that if you got complex stuff going on in terms of roadway design and other things, that railway design and things like that, you may be aware of where those are. I'll kind of try to show you where they are, but they're little C's. The biggies here are the for alls, and there are four of them. The draw tools, the alignment, create, and modify menus, understanding what's in there, all of the alignment toolbar, and all of the alignment properties. And we're going to hop over to Civil 3D right away and attack some of those things before we get to some other things. I simply hooked up to the project. I started drawing. This is an IOB 12 template, right? That's instant on basic. So it's, got a couple of thousand styles built into it. We're on the design side, and I just clunk down a surface, just give myself a surface border here. It's referenced in, and we're going to do a little alignment construction. And the classic way to do this is, hey, I want to make a P-line, and it goes from here to here and turns to an arc, and goes to here, and then goes to here, and then goes back to a line, and goes, oh, how did I get that? Well, okay, we won't worry about whether it is. And in LDT, hey, we want to create an alignment, so, oh, okay, alignment from objects, and we grab that guy, and it says that direction you want to go. That's the way I drew the P-line. Duh, what a stupid piece of software. And now we got our alignment. And of course, immediately Civil 3D stuff starts happening, and you could say, okay, here, and just bang through stuff. All these things are set up by your command settings, which are critically important to the kind of work you do and why you might want to have more than one kind of template, for example, right? And why you probably need a survey one that's different from a design one for sure. Okay, so we're going to throw on a layout style. We're just going to do a LDT-like label set here. Is it going to add curves even though I don't have curves? Is it going to erase stuff? And some other issues that you may not notice right away here is, hey, it's going to assign a design speed to your alignment right away. So we're going to change that one to 35 miles an hour. And then it's also going to, you can employ criteria-based design. You can make your own design check. Okay, so if rules of the locality are no curves bigger than this or smaller than that, no tangent shorter than this, and all those sorts of things, you can do all that kind of thing and build it into your rules table manually. You can also use the ASHTO stuff, and we're just going to slap on the ASHTO stuff on here at 35 miles an hour. Just for fun. And Civil 3D will come back and tell you right away, hey, you remember our last segment here? Is not tangent. What the heck were you thinking? Okay, so it works. We got our whole alignment, did exactly what we wanted, and now in 12 we can actually do some massaging here. Okay, and a couple of things. I'll go to the alignment properties, right, which is pretty easy to, why would I go there? Okay, well, there's some nice stuff in here. Okay, and this is individual to alignments. So I want the points of intersections. Please show me it for every individual curve and curve group. So that's going to give me my points of intersection for what's going on. And if I got spirals, notice the differences, right? Okay, and understand the difference, right? And what information is being fed back to you, right? Okay, is important. Okay, and there's another key step here, right? And just by default, we lock all the parameter constraints, right? And whether you're going to do this little guy is pretty important up here, right? And let's take a look at the help file. Notice I was somewhere else, right? Notice that when you have that checked, it will change and reflect, sort of cascade your tangency in an effort to figure out what you want to do. If you don't have it checked, you're on your own. Okay, so you need to do it yourself. So for each individual alignment, part of the command settings, whether it's checked or not, right? As we go through this, do you want this on for this alignment? Okay, so sometimes it's good news, sometimes it won't let you do what you want to do. So, right, by default, I kind of leave it off, but we're going to turn it back on and we're going to apply. And notice, your station control, and if you want to hide it. Okay, so we can say, please hide things, right? Okay, and so we can move a mask around so you can hide the alignment, which can be, extremely useful when you have crossing alignments and all those kinds of things, right? So masks are a nifty end thing to employ, right? But on the design side, at this point, we're not. And hey, basic most important thing you ever did for this alignment, right, was from a P line, right? Based on my bad judgment. Okay, so this description gives you an audit for your feature. Keeping these updated will help you in Civil 3D. Employing some naming convention for your alignments is important. At least, right, I know this is a west to east one, not an east to west one, though I might want to flip it to edit it, right? So we're just going to call it that for now. So that gives me a little bit of information. I got a little bit of dog tag stuff. Okay, so, and now we can see that, hey, for those curves, right, we can see where the PIs are, right? And if I grab my curve, right, those are the labels, right? Okay, there's my curve, right? And, I can yank things around here, literally grip edit things, and I'm going to do that, and you will see we all of a sudden got tangency all broken because this is P-line beast, right? All yanked around and tweaked. Okay, so that's all in a nice little undo. Hey, wonderful, wonderful, right? And we can see our PIs here, and they actually appear in the jump styles, so they will show up. They won't plot, hey, right? Unless you use, a final annotative, right, alignment style. But in layout mode, hey, I can always find them. And what happens if I grab one? Oh, that gets me, right, the exact alignment I want. Oh, isn't that a nifty little style-based tool based into, just good styles, the difference between good styles and bad styles, infinite in terms of production time. And hey, now we want to edit this thing. So in the ribbon, that's going to be the geometry editor, and that's the layout toolbar. And we're going to go to the edit side. Tail layout toolbars all work classically the same. Settings over here, right? Create in the middle, okay, and edit on this side. And we're going to, and you will see none of these were constrained because I converted from a P-line object. Okay, so, and notice because of that lock thing, right, I can unlock these, right? So I can unlock them all. Okay, so now they allow me to tweak things around. Okay, so I got that curve. I'm going to take this line and it's going to be constrained by what goes on by the curve. It's a 3-point curve. Notice that it's point based. Okay, I got another curve here. Okay, so I can go, we're going to make that constrained by the next. Okay, and we're going to make this constrained by the next. And we're going to make this constrained by the previous. And we're going to put the locks back on. Okay, so that was impossible to do in 11. Okay, and basically now we have a rule-based set of constraints operating on my alignment. Okay, and so we're going to get out of the layout toolbar, and there are undos for each one of those events up here that are separate from the whole AutoCAD undo, right? So, you know, oops, I didn't mean to do that. So you can play with stuff, right? And now our alignment, right, has got some different constraints to it. So if now I want to yank things around, you will see that they are now all tied together and remain tied together, right, by what's going on. If I move, certain bits and pieces are now impossible to move around. Other parts, right, I can't move around, right, and change the other related geometry. So one of the great things in 12 is this ability to take stuff you slapped together and then rebuilt it, right? I'm just going to delete that alignment, and we're going to play at the game another way. Let's look at simple drawing mechanics inside Civil 3D. Let's suppose I want to make an alignment, and we'll just do, classic this way, and hey, we're just going to call this a west to east again. Okay, and from Civil 3D mechanics. Okay, and we'll do the same things, right? And what I like to do is first, I would like to draw a fixed line from that point, and we could do go over here and go bearing and distance. I want to be in this quadrant, and I want to go north 52 degrees, 45 seconds, minutes, and 22 seconds. Thank you. Right. And I'd like to go 420, 403.5 feet. And now I could continue to draw this way, but actually what I really like to do is, now that I got 2 points and I'm really sneaky, I'm going to use deflected angle. And I would like to go 45 degrees off that tangent. And we're going to go out here, 13,000 feet about. Okay. Oops. Yes, I'm going to go clockwise. Sorry. Oops. Notice, because I didn't know what I'm doing, I did a little no-no. And I'm going to kind of drag my stuff and show you what looked like, right? Because I don't understand transparent commands, right? In Civil 3D, this looked like I'm an idiot. I drew my first quadrant segment, and then notice that it went back to BD, right? And then I tried to do another transparent command without getting out of the BD command and tried to do a deflected angle, and it tossed me out like I was a moron, which I was. Okay? All right. So, let's do another line from here, and we're going to do, we're going to do our BD again, right? And we're going to go into this quadrant, and excuse me if I don't type, right? And we'll go that far. And now I hit escape to get out of the BD command, right? And it wants my first point. Well, let me do a deflected angle. Yes, indeedy. And we want to go counterclockwise, please. Okay, and I want to go just pure 45 degrees off that one, and we'll go out 700 feet, right? And notice, right? Okay. Wait. Right? Isn't that my second point? Wait a minute. Right? So this stuff doesn't work at all. Okay, so understanding how the dynamic commands, right, run, the transparent commands run inside creation tools, critical step to be able to employ them well. If you don't know how to employ them well, right, you are frustrated and it's a stupid piece of software. Let's do one more here. There are, of course, a whole bunch of nifty little LDT-like things. I would like to create a curve from the end of an object. Inside must be a line or an arc. Notice useless to me, right? Of course, right? It's useless, right? I'm still in the layout command, and I can employ, hey, a floating curve, right? Which is what I really intend to do, right? And we'll take this one by length, and we'll grab our segment, right? And want my curve direction to be counterclockwise, right? Oh, so that's an O. Gotta remember to type the O, and we'll go 400, and notice that I can do chord lengths and changing angles and all that kind of stuff at the command line if you are paying attention here, right? And we'll go 330 feet of length, right? And now I'd like to create another segment here that happens to be linear. This one I want to be a floating, right, from the curve, and I want to go this way, and I want to go 400 feet to hit another PI, okay, and I'd like to have another line runs down this way, right, and notice I did that segment backwards, right, and now we're all done, and that's all one alignment. And so one of the nice things, right, about Civil 3D is that you can lay out the bits and pieces and then connect the bits and pieces back together again. So this is all one alignment. Okay, remember we had that really swirly reverse segment? Let's see how we can stick things back together. So now what I'd like to do is take a free curve between here and here, and we'll keep it less than 180. We'll just use our default, and this is coming from my settings, right? I can always edit it later, right? And I'd like to take another free curve and go from here to here, and we'll again use our defaults, and it can't find that. Okay, so maybe it's like really small, 50, right? And specify the radius, right? Can't find that one. So because my segment went in the opposite direction, right? Is there a way to flip that segment, right? Okay, so we'll get out of that command, and maybe it will take this, this is a handy little toolbar command here, convert a line or AutoCAD like. Oh no, that's not the one I wanted. I want reverse a sub-entity's direction. We'll grab this one right here, right? Right, and notice it flipped it. Okay, and now what were we doing? We're doing a free curve between two of the radius. Pick here and here, and less than 180, and do on my 200-foot curve, and voila, things are all linked up together. So the better you understand the tools available to you in each one of these interfaces, right? And how you can modify things and how the commands relate to one another, right? Simple rule of thumb. If it's not in the layout toolbar, you're probably dealing with an AutoCAD line-based tools. Okay, so these things in the draw menu, create the AutoCAD line work first, right? And they're LDT-like in that sense. And then you can modify those, okay? In make them into alignment and modify those. Okay, so that's a good way to do it. Playing with those transparent commands and figuring out how that stuff works inside. Does it work inside the layout toolbar? Does it make sense inside the layout toolbar? Again, right? Um, Confusing, bewildering, right? But useful when you figure out how it works. Okay, so we're exiting out of that command. We got all our stuff all glued back together. We could take a look at any one of the curves that we created here, modify what we are allowed to by the constraints, right? And notice that, now in the single segment plane, right? You know, I'm going to constrain it only by the previous, right? Okay, and we'll make this 400 feet. Okay, and let's take a look at, right? Okay, so my curve was constrained by the previous now, so that's constrained, but my line is not, right? Okay, I can constrain that as well, and oh, wait a minute. Right, is what's going to happen to my alignment now? Okay, right, whoops. Sneaking labels, right? Right, geometry editor, look again, right? Notice I have these two segments that are unconstrained in the midst here, right? Okay, that can be really handy, right? If I've got to slap fit things, move things over to points, right? Do that sort of thing. So recognize that you also have the ability to grip edit this and change this, reconnect all this tangency constraints, right? With the parameters. Is it making adjustments for me or letting it do it manually? Right? I don't know. Okay. And my point was, hey, whoops, labels again. All right. Get out of the editor, the alignment properties, right? Is it doing this? No, as I pointed out, my command default is to turn that off every time I create it. So I'm not getting any help here, right? Unless I come and manually turn it on. Okay. Am I showing the points of intersection? Not unless I want to show them, right? Okay, we'll take a look at the other kind. I don't have any spirals in here, so it's not going to affect things too much, right? So we just got plain and simple PIs. Okay, so as you get through the process, right, understanding how all those little checkbox helps and hurt you, right, take a little bit of getting used to since it's brand new stuff, right? Okay, and brand new stuff, I don't know what it is, throw it away. I'm not going to use it. Notice how grips reflect part of what's going on and what's now allowable for us to change. If you look carefully at how the grips are constructed now, you can see this curve, right? Right, is tied here. This curve tied to that tangent. This curve, no arrows in either directions, tied to both tangents. Or is it fixed point, right? Net, do, 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 you know? Okay, so tied to both sides. Okay, and once again, your AutoCAD undoes work. Your inside the alignment editor one's probably more useful for you. And once again, hey, our PIs show up. PIs show you the constraint and where they are, right? And let you get, without grabbing, by the way, you know, grabbing and messing with all the alignment stuff, right? Okay, alignment labels, right? Which I keep doing as I demonstrate here. And hey, alignment label groups. Hey, this is wonderful stuff, right? Jump comes with a whole bunch of them, right? So you got a whole bunch of label sets, okay, right? Okay, and lots of basic essential styles for labels. So everything under the sun here. Hey, if I want don't have any super elevation implied, right? Geometry points I've already got. Notice a couple of things that are not obvious in alignment and profile labels is that you can do them multiple times and have different kinds of geometry point labels, right, in your current label set applied. And that can be extremely useful. So I can add another set, right? Notice these are 270s. I can add, uh, 90-degree ones, add that one, and choose to only do the alignment beginning and end, and all the rest remain the other way. And I'm pretty sure the other one that I did doesn't have the alignment one, right? And we'll put the curve midpoints in there too, right? And so you can build up the annotation that you are displaying and how you are displaying it, right? And change it, right? Based on your group labels assigned to your alignment. And the jump includes lots more group labels, some really cool ones that do, single digits, double digits, and all that kind of stuff are now available in the jump kit. Okay, IOB's got some basic and simple ones, more complex ones for alignments and profiles and all that kind of stuff in the jump kit, which is easy to add to IOB. So we got that core geometry stuff, and now we're going to delve into this idea of what is a widening and those sorts of things. But one of the things we also got going on here, right, whether this is a reasonable design or not, right, we also got new changes to super elevation, right? And we got a new super elevation wizard with some nice choices, right? So hey, this is divided crowns now, and pivoting around the inside of curve. This is our axis of rotation. I'm going to leave my median shape the same, right? So if that was my alignment for a split road, right, I can change that, okay? Use divided median, same stuff, right? We'll go inside of curves everywhere, right? Maintaining the median shape, so you have now more choices, right? More things covered and handled quickly, right? Notice I can, force lefts and rights and inside of curves only, right? Which is extremely useful if you're doing rural road work, which you didn't used to be able to do in 11. Right? So lots of details here. We'll use 12-foot lanes, right? Run things. How many lanes left and right? Okay. Is it asymmetrical? No. I want, 2 lanes on the right. Okay. 2 lanes on the left, 1 lane on the right. Okay. So you can do a vast amount of more complex supers, right? Which is really handy and reducing the amount of work you have to do to tweak all the stuff, and as it enters your corridor, produce good stuff, whether you're using shoulders or not, and how you maintain your rollovers and all that sort of stuff now built here. Same classic, we'll go probably better go up to 8, right? 2 lanes, smooth that stuff, automatically resolve overlaps, right? Whether you want, you I have a tendency to apply the smoothing, leave the overlaps, see what they are, fix them, move them around, depends upon, how many spirals and all that sort of stuff you've got, right? Typically, and you get a result, right? You can, good news here, big good news, and one that's not necessary. You can export this, pour it out, so if Bob in the next cubicle, the other guy you work with, comes back and smashes your supers that you spent half an hour tweaking, right, you can export and import them. Okay, so once again, there's external backup here for this kind of work. That information also may be useful to you, right, in text format. So you might want to take a look at what that means, text format. Can I get anything out of that in terms of text formatting? Help my design oversight understand what's going on. Okay, since you're pushing buttons and half the time they're not seeing what you're doing, right? Important information here, right? Okay, so we covered supers, we've covered design, basic design constraints, design control. I'm going to hop back over into our design tools, and I want you to notice a couple of things here. We just did one little command here, and we just did AutoCAD, and we just did the layout toolbar. Okay, we really haven't, we've taken a quick peek at a couple of things, points of intersection and constraint editing and design criteria over in the alignment properties. We kind of dodged the modify menu, right? And this is really easy to miss in Civil 3D. For many features, there's a separate modify menu. Okay, you see pieces of it when you select an alignment, but you don't see the whole modify menu. And I always like to point that one out because where did they hide it? Okay, and there is indeed modify. Okay, and for each kind of feature in Civil 3D, there's a modify menu. And these are all, hey, nicely purple, blue, whatever you want to call them. And they've got a lot of things. Notice, there's the stuff, but there are other things, right, going on in this menu, right? And in some features, this may be a very useful menu to get to, right? Reversing direction, moving to site. So all this stuff for alignments, this is not a big change, except for all the roundabout stuff, right, is over here, hidden away, right? In the modify menu. So like to point that one out. Also, when you grab, not the labels, right? When you grab things, right, there are maybe, based on your interface, some things hidden away in, for example, Launchpad. Classically in 11, if you're still in 11, offset alignments get buried away in the green ribbon for alignments. You may not see them everywhere where you want them. Okay, so let's do offset alignments. The idea of offset alignments is we have an alignment. We want, edge of traveled way, edge of sidewalk, edge of right of way, all geometrically tied to this nasty beast that we've created. Okay, and you can keep them tied together, create separate, completely disconnected ones as well. So there are a lot of subtleties inside the offset alignment command, and since we have an alignment selected, we can use it, right? And it knows, hey, I want to make it by default the name template. You may want to change, tweak based on what kind and numbers of alignments that you are going to make. And I want to make a couple of points. Once again, this is one of those extremely useful things. So I don't really want to do this for the whole thing. I really only need to, go from here to here for my widenings. Okay, so there are some subtle little bits and pieces there, right, that are not, you can look at look at the create box, look at the edit box in some detail, and play with it a few times. You know, and try out what's in there. We'll just do edge of traveled way here, and we'll do 18s on both sides. And these do not have to be the same distance. Um, uh, Jump now ships with, you know, offset center lines, right? Okay, and lefts and rights. Okay, so if you want to be cute, you know, you can make the left one be left, and no labels is typically what you might want to set in your command settings, right, for create offset alignments. Okay, you might not have any. Some other widening criteria here, mostly this has to do with international standards. You know, in Europe, for example, you got to widen as you go around curves. Don't do that too much in the United States. But once again, right, you know, you can, you know, specify a design file, right? Okay, okay, add widenings and force them, right? How much, what's going on, okay, right? And once again, you can do your design check or turn it off, okay? So those little subtleties are there. And if I was creating the right-of-ways, for example, I might want to shove those over into an easement site or a right-of-way site so that they interact with parcel segments, right? And I automatically, you know, see what's going to happen in my parcels, right? Okay, so at this point, we're just going to create those two edge of traveled way, right? And maybe I just want to make that be ETW now. Now that I decided what I'm going to do, right? So now I got ETW in both sides, or I can take my ETW, you know, cut it out of here and stick it in here. Make sure I don't have two dashes. Got one dash. So now I got alignment ETW on right or left, and that will make it pretty easy for me to identify those. Remember that whenever we share the alignments, right, whenever we're looking for them in the tool space, they're alphabetically weighted. So, you know, now they're going to be collected by parent alignment name, right, with E, right, being my next sorter. So again, you want to think about how you name things in Civil 3D makes big difference. Okay, so we have our edge of traveled way, and we can, of course, grab any one of those offset alignments and, you know, hit add widening, right? You can also hit the little plus button to add widening. I tend to, you know, employ the add widening. Come on, get it come up. Create a widening portion as a new alignment. Sorry. Now, okay, and where do I want to go from? I can manually type here, right? Interesting things happen, you know, with DYN, right? If you start DYN before and turn DYN on and off, right? If DYN is on when you start it, you get a slightly different behavior. So pay a little bit of attention there, right? And we'll take a widening from here, and we'll put our widening and end it carefully inside my curve, and my offset is the total offset, so I can be inside, don't have to be outside. And my edge of traveled way was 18, so I'm going to leave my default of 25 feet, and we'll get a widening. Okay, and each widening acts as has a beginning and an end, right? And in fact, if you remove bits and pieces, right, I'm just going to say okay, right, and go back and take a look at my offset here. Grab my offset alignment, look at my offset parameters, right, and you will notice that it starts inserting widening groups, okay, and I want to add a widening in front of that widening group. Did that on purpose. And what happens if I add a widening between here and here? And my end station will make it 30 feet, so we'll kind of do a knuckle-like thing going on over there, right? And which widening group am I working in? right? Where is this one, right? Where's this region? Okay, so it renumbers your widening group. These work linearly down. So where your widening group, its name may change, right, as you edit different regions. I'm going to go to the next widening group, okay? And we're going to make this widening, notice it's negative since it's left, right? And now I want to make this one 32 feet. And I want to take my start station and make it at 1,000. Oh, wait a minute. How come I can't make it start at 1,000? Right? Outside or within a grab, okay. Right? Okay, so I can do 1,100, right? Okay. And my end station, let's make this an interesting little, let's go, I want to do something inside the mid here. We'll go 1550. All right. So as you change, right, the alignment, and you can also edit where the transitions are, and notice as it crosses curves, right, crosses mid-curve curves, interesting things happen to the geometry that you may not really mean, right, but they actually make sense, right? And now actually if we got a curve here, right, and we want to move this geometry point up here, right, okay, right, based on my new revised stationing, right, things will happen to your alignment, to your transitions and your widenings, right? Notice that if you have multiple alignments, you can switch from one to another, right? Okay, in the offset command even while you do this. So there's a lot more horizontal control. Remember, we've got rule-based going on. Rule-based is being applied out from my main center line out here into this alignment as well, because I chose to do so when I created that alignment. Okay? Right? What if I want to get rid of my, widening group? How do I do that? All right. Well, you can always go to the offset parameter, right? Go to my widening group 2 and simply delete it. Okay. Um, okay. Does undo work for that? Oh, you bet. So you get your widening back if you accidentally do it. Other thing to do, right? Even simpler is I like to slap it back. Okay. So notice you get the width. Notice what happens with my transitions, right? Okay, so I can also get rid of it by simply snapping it back, and Civil 3D is fairly aware of, oh, that's the 0, this is an inside, there's the 0, and you can almost feel it in your interface, right? And that will make it go away. We will show you that in the offset parameters. I now only have one widening group, and once again, right, right. Okay, undo works really well. So the stability of your horizontal control got a whole lot better inside Civil 3D, right, with 12. This is one of the things they work very hard on, right? A lot of QA went into this. A lot of people complain, hey, it should do this, it should do that. And now, things like knuckles, which were a bit of a pain, right? You can construct them, but did they stay stable? Were they lined up? Did they obey the rules that you wanted them to? Got a lot easier to do. And, given that we have saved our drawing and we go over to the manage menu, and I can now create, offsets, right? Share them in my project, keep the horizontal control in drawing A, and use it in drawings F through J, right, to do other work or provide options, right? So I could create another set of offset alignments that are, edge of traveled way left A, edge of traveled left B, right, to provide different ways and construct different corridors for different design solutions, right, spread out across my project. Okay, so with that, I think we've covered most of the stuff. I have a couple of webinars on, widenings with WOW and things like that up on the website, going into the more detailed mechanics of offset alignments and sharing them and all that sort of thing, right, that we've done for intersections and a couple of other things, right, in previous times. Wanted to stay, at functional levels here. The sharing of alignments and profile data across your project, right, is a couple of little sneaky little things that we've discovered and our clients have discovered and like to let people know about, right? They do allow you to share this stuff. You need to keep track of where it is. I employed a style-based drawing to do all this construction, right? I may not want to keep those data references as they, reach a certain level where they're going to have other objects, other key features like corridors that are friendly. Hey, that's the way we're going to solve this. At that point, to keep your project a little bit more mobile, right, you may want to, once you're through the QA process, that's pretty good. You're not going to change it too much. You can always hop it back out, make the edits, right? But you really don't want to carry those styles around in the shared feature drawings, right? What they do is that makes your project and all those drawings and all that data a little more susceptible to the next release or an update causing you issues inside your project. So you want to store your QA, if that's your horizontal control, store it in a no styles drawing. How ridiculously simple is that? Here's the mechanics just to make it simple. I've decided I'd like to share this in my project. Okay, step A is, hey, I have to create those data shortcuts. Oh, yep. It knows if I moved, zoomed, or anything, right? Okay, I'm going to create those. Okay, so we're doing WE1 we're looking for. Okay, we'll share those up inside my project. Okay, I want to save my drawing again now that I've done that. And I'm going to close this guy. And in my current, shortcuts, right? Over in the prospector, I've got data shortcuts. I got lots of alignments in here, right? There's my WE1, right? Okay, and here are my offset alignments, right? Will be here. There's my W1 left, right, and right. Okay, and so what I really like to do is create a new drawing, go to the prospector, go to my templates, we'll refresh my template collection. I want my no styles template, create a new drawing, and I'm non-styling my horizontal control here. I am in a coordinate system since that's where my project is. Probably want to do that in my templates, but since I haven't, right, we'll get that in the right coordinate system. Okay, and now I'm going to save it. And now I'm moving it from a model location. You see this is in a proposed or a model location inside my project. I want to actually go uphill and move it over to a reference, and I'll move it to alignment references, and let's go, we'll name it shared, WESD shared, and make that drawing. And how easy is this to do? Now I go back to my prospector and I need my centerline alignment, and I want to promote that guy into this drawing. Don't care, don't want it to have style. I want my two offset alignments. Those were WE left, and I want to promote this one, and I want to promote this one. Okay, and over in the prospector in my current drawing, I will have alignments, one center line, zoom to, completely now genericized, right? All with standard stuff, using nothing that didn't come out of raw Civil 3D at all. Okay, and so this will upgrade. When I have to upgrade drawings, there are none of my styles interfering at all in any way, shape, or form with the data that's stored. Now, question is this now got offset parameters? No. Okay, so here's one of the little prices you pay, right? Is if you make the horizontal control, right? Now this becomes and is what? It's an offset alignment, but how about its alignment properties, right? Offset parameters, right? Its parent alignment name can actually hook that back up to my WE. No, okay. So one of the prices, right? Okay. Sharing the offset alignments using shared offsets is if you're using shared offsets, they get disconnected and you cannot, unfortunately, reconnect them, right? Something we hope they fix, right? But nonetheless, right, you now know that this is an approved, these are the approved ones. Yes, they do work. Yes, you can make, can we adjust our widening in here, right? Offset parameters and none, right? Okay, so, one of the good news is here, right? Notice that I have promoted this thing, right? So it's now editable, right? You know, it is now a completely disconnected little beastie. Okay, so, right, is that what our real intent was? Probably not. So I just want you to note that once you do this promote, I've shared it, taken it back out, and pull it back out. You should not go in and mucky with this. And you definitely, our first initial drawing, right, that we've still got shared up here, right? Okay. Still does exist. May want to move it to, a reference location and keep it as a backup and share those so you can make the changes and then resubmit those up into the sample one and update them, right, in terms of how you make those changes. So I don't lose, right? I'm just publishing my shortcuts by this vernacular of here are my shared version of that, right? Should not go in and edit that thing. That's the public one, okay? The one that's shared throughout the project. The end result of a QA process, that's the way they are. They're not going to change. So from that perspective, that's exactly what we want. But, wait a minute. I really want to change that thing. Okay, well, all right. That's appropriate. I just wanted to point out what happens when you go through the shared promote loop here, right? Okay, all right. That's you pay a price, and nothing wrong with the price, knowing that you have to keep the original construction drawing somewhere else, off the table, so to speak, but able to replace what goes on in your project share drawing, right? Okay, if that's the approach you want to take, that's meticulous, but it does save you a lot of effort, right, as projects go uphill and you change releases and all those sorts of things, right? Okay. Um, Let's hop back over to slide two for a minute, right? Um, as you extend that whole idea, intersections have a couple of issues, and I brought up exactly what I did to make that clear. You want to run the wizard and design your intersection. You want to build a horizontal and vertical control that you're going to share, recognizing that what you share out there, you're probably going to promote into a no styles drawing, and share those references up into your project. Okay, here are the offsets, curb returns, etc. from intersection 1, intersection 2, intersection 3. You now want to create a corridor with all those bits and pieces in them, right? You want to basically, if you got to get back to that shared horizontal control, the way intersections work, you got to run the wizard in a new drawing, right? Let it do its thing. You don't really care about its stuff, and then rehook up the parts and piece with the referenced in horizontal control that you're storing elsewhere. Okay, same basic idea. Great way to run multiple options, build multiple corridors, right, and deal with, hey, do we want turn lanes, not turn lanes? Do we want entrance approach here, entrance approach there to my parking lot, et cetera, right? All that versatility, the intersections and all that shared horizontal control can get you, right? Do I want this profile or that profile, this one or that one? The process is the intersection wizard wants to do its thing the way it's designed at current space, right? You build the horizontal control somewhere else without doing, right, create a corridor at all inside the wizard, which I've covered many times in previous webinars. And then you go back and replace the shared parts with that shared horizontal control. And once you've, locked down, hey, that's the one we want to use. And that can save you a whole bunch of time, keep things from making you pull your hair out, and reducing the amount of risk you have in any one drawing or publishing drawing that you produce out of your project.